Have you ever been in a relationship where no matter how much you gave, your time, your patience, your love, it never seemed to be enough to make them stay? One moment they were warm, charming, even vulnerable. The next, they were distant, cold, and hard to read. You found yourself constantly questioning everything: what you said, how often you texted, whether you should have been more available or held back more. The silence felt like punishment. The mixed signals left you in emotional limbo. But what if I told you this had nothing to do with you? What if I told you that their pulling away wasn't a reflection of your worth, but a reflection of their deep, internal fear of intimacy? I'm Jim Rohn, and in this video we're going to pull back the curtain on avoidant attachment and show you the one truth they don't want you to realize, because once you do, the dynamic changes instantly. Avoidants don't maintain power through strength, they maintain it through confusion. Yours, they stay in control by staying unpredictable, but the moment you understand what's actually happening behind their silence and detachment, the illusion begins to break. And here's the thing, they don't crumble because you confront them. They crumble because your clarity takes away the emotional leverage they've had over you. This isn't about revenge, and it's not about playing games. It's about reclaiming your peace, your energy, your sense of self. So if you've ever felt stuck in a relationship that left you constantly guessing, don't scroll past this. You need to hear this. Make sure to hit subscribe, tap the notification bell, and leave a comment if any part of this already feels a little too real. Because once you finally see the pattern clearly, they always crumble. Let's dive in. Let's talk about one of the most frustrating emotional dynamics. When someone keeps you close, just enough to hold your attention, but never close enough to feel truly secure. If you've ever been in a relationship with an avoidantly attached person, you probably know exactly what I mean. One day they're engaged, texting back, showing interest, and the next they're distant, unresponsive, or too busy. It leaves you confused and anxious, constantly trying to figure out what changed or what you might have done wrong. But here's the truth, and it's a big one. This behavior isn't about you. It's about their fear of closeness. Avoidants often create what I call an emotional illusion of control. They manage the distance. They decide when to come close and when to pull away. That push-pull behavior keeps you guessing, and when you're guessing, you're not grounded. You're focused on fixing, chasing, or proving something. And that imbalance gives them a subtle sense of power. It's not always intentional or manipulative. Most of the time, they don't even realize they're doing it. But underneath that distance is a fear of vulnerability. Getting too close feels risky to them. It reminds them on a subconscious level of past emotional wounds, usually from childhood, when needing someone felt unsafe or disappointing. Here's a real-life example. Maybe you had a deep conversation one night, they opened up, you felt a connection, and then silence the next day. They ghost you for a week. It's not because they didn't enjoy it, it's because it made them feel exposed. So they retreat. Meanwhile, you are left wondering what you did wrong. That's the trap. Once you understand this pattern, though, something powerful happens. You stop chasing and start observing. You begin to see their distance not as a reflection of your worth, but as a mirror of their fear. And that clarity, that's when their emotional control starts to fade. Because the moment you stop playing the game, they lose the power they never truly had. Let's get real for a second. Your attention is powerful, more powerful than you probably realize. In a relationship with an avoidantly attached person, your attention becomes the fuel that keeps the whole dynamic alive. When they pull away, go silent, or act distant, and you chase after them, texting, explaining, checking in, you're doing all the emotional heavy lifting. You're keeping the connection going, even when they're giving you breadcrumbs. And whether they're aware of it or not, they feel that power. Because they don't have to show up consistently, you're already doing it for both of you. Think about it. How many times have you reached out just to clear the air? How often have you replayed conversations in your head, rewritten a message 10 times, or waited hours hoping they'd finally respond? That's your emotional energy being invested, and it's valuable. The moment you stop giving that energy away freely, when you stop reacting to every pullback, every delay, every silence, you shift the balance. Let's say they ghost you for 2 days after an intense conversation. Old you might panic, overthink, send a long message asking if everything's okay. But the version of you that knows your worth, that version pauses. That version doesn't rush in to fix what they didn't even try to maintain. And that's when everything changes. When you stop over-explaining, stop chasing, stop trying to hold up the relationship on your own, they're faced with the reality of their own behavior. The emotional safety net you used to provide is gone. That's when avoidants start to feel the shift, because now they have to either step up or let the silence grow. And here's the kicker: some won't step up, but the ones capable of growth, they'll notice, they'll feel it, and for the first time they'll have to meet you halfway. Your attention is currency. Spend it where it's returned. Let's talk about detachment. Not the kind that's cold, distant, or mean, but the kind that's rooted in peace and self-respect. When you're in a relationship with someone who's avoidantly attached, it's easy to fall into a pattern where their behavior starts to control how you feel. They pull away, you panic, they go silent, you blame yourself. They give you just enough to keep you holding on, and suddenly your entire emotional world starts to revolve around their next move. But here's the turning point. Detachment is the moment you stop playing that game. It's not about pretending you don't care. It's not about ignoring them or becoming emotionally unavailable yourself. It's about coming back to yourself. It's saying, their silence doesn't get to decide how I feel today. For example, maybe they haven't replied to your last message. In the past, that might have sent you spiraling, overthinking every word, refreshing your phone, feeling like you did something wrong. But now, you breathe. You go about your day. You remind yourself, my worth isn't on the line here. That's detachment. It's emotional freedom. And here's what's powerful about it. When you stop reacting to their hot and cold behavior, they lose the power they never should have had in the first place. The avoidant dynamic only works when you keep chasing, explaining, and overfunctioning. The moment you step back, not to punish them but to protect your peace, that whole dynamic starts to fall apart. They're no longer in control of your emotions. You are. You're no longer waiting for them to decide if you're lovable. You've already decided that for yourself. And that shift? That's where your healing begins. And their illusion of control starts to crumble. Detachment isn't disconnection. It's self-respect in action. Let's talk about something powerful that often gets overlooked: your consistency. When you're in a relationship with someone who's avoidant, there's often a lot of emotional chaos. One minute they're affectionate, the next they're pulling away. You're left constantly guessing, walking on eggshells, wondering what version of them you're going to get that day. And in all that noise, it's easy to feel like you're the unstable one, just because you care. But here's the truth. Your calm, steady presence is exactly what makes their chaos visible. Avoidants thrive in confusion. It gives them space to avoid responsibility, to stay vague, to keep everything undefined. But when you show up consistently, when you express your needs clearly, set boundaries with kindness, and remain grounded even when they pull away, something starts to shift. Let me give you an example. Say you've been dating someone avoidant, and they tend to disappear emotionally whenever things get too real. Instead of chasing or calling them out in anger, you simply say, "When I don't hear from you for days, it makes me feel disconnected. I value communication and I need consistency to feel safe in this relationship." You stay calm. You don't guilt them. You just state your truth, and you follow through. That's where the magic happens. You're not threatening. You're not demanding, but you're no longer enabling the emotional fog they hide in. They can't twist your words because you're being honest. They can't call you too emotional because you're steady. And in that clarity, their avoidance becomes obvious, even to them. That's often when avoidance begins to crumble, not because you're attacking them, but because they finally have to face the gap between how they show up and what a healthy relationship actually requires. Your consistency holds up a mirror, and in that mirror, they either rise or retreat. Either way, you win, because your clarity reveals the truth. And truth is where healing begins. Let's talk about boundaries, not as a form of punishment, but as an act of self-respect. A lot of people confuse setting boundaries with being cold or trying to control someone else's behavior. But that's not what real healthy boundaries are about. They're not ultimatums. They're not emotional threats. They're simply clear communication about what you need to feel safe, respected, and emotionally stable in a relationship. When you're with someone who's avoidantly attached, setting boundaries can feel especially scary. You might worry, what if I push them away? But here's the thing. If someone disappears the moment you ask for basic emotional consistency, they were already halfway out the door. Boundaries don't create disconnection, they reveal it. Let me give you a simple example. Say you've been dating someone who goes quiet for days without explanation. You used to let it slide, hoping they'd come around. But now, from a grounded place, you say something like, I value open communication. When I don't hear from you, it creates distance. I need to be in a relationship where I can count on someone to show up, even when things are hard. That's not dramatic. That's not demanding. That's you owning your emotional needs. When you communicate like that, with calmness, clarity, and zero desperation, you shift the dynamic completely. You're no longer begging for breadcrumbs. You're no longer shrinking to keep the peace. You're standing in your worth. And at that moment, they have a choice. Either step up and meet you or fall away. Whichever path they choose, you win, because now you're living from a place of truth, not hope. Boundaries don't push people away. They filter. They separate those who are capable of real connection from those who aren't ready. And when you stop seeing boundaries as risky and start seeing them as necessary, everything changes. Because the people who are meant for you won't be scared off by your standards. They'll rise to meet them. Let's talk about healing, not as a destination, but as a shift in how you show up for yourself. When you've been in a relationship with someone avoidant, your nervous system probably learned to live in survival mode, always scanning for signals, always trying to keep the peace, always wondering, did I push too hard? Did I ask for too much? But here's the truth you eventually come to when healing begins. You weren't asking for too much. You were just asking the wrong person. When we're stuck in fear, especially fear of being abandoned, we tend to react. We overtext. We explain ourselves over and over. We try to earn our place in someone's life. But that pattern doesn't come from love. It comes from a place deep inside that still believes we have to chase in order to be chosen. And as long as we live from that fear, people who fear closeness, like avoidance, will thrive in the dynamic. Why? Because your chasing keeps them in control. It makes their distance feel powerful. But here's where everything starts to change. When you heal, you stop reacting to their pullbacks like they're personal. You stop rushing in to fix what they broke. You begin to breathe, slow down, and ask yourself, do I actually want a relationship like this? Imagine this. After days of silence, they finally reach out. The old version of you would have responded instantly, grateful just to hear from them. But now, you pause. You ask, is this energy matching mine? Do I feel safe here? That's healing. That's self-trust. When you begin living from peace, not panic, you stop making someone else's inconsistency a mirror for your worth. And without your anxious reaction to feed off, their avoidance loses its power. You take your energy back. You remember who you are. And you start asking better questions, not how do I get them to choose me, But why was I trying so hard for someone who wouldn't? That's the shift. That's where your freedom begins. As we wrap up, I want to remind you of something simple but powerful. You were never asking for too much, just asking someone who couldn't give it. Throughout this video, we've talked about the avoidant cycle, how it plays on your fear of abandonment, how they hold power through emotional distance, and how the moment you stop reacting from fear and start showing up with clarity, everything begins to shift. When you reclaim your energy, set calm boundaries, and stop chasing, the illusion breaks. Their silence no longer controls you, their inconsistency no longer confuses you, and more importantly, you come back to you. Healing isn't about changing them. It's about remembering your worth, getting honest about what you truly need, and giving yourself the safety you once looked for in someone else. That's where your power is. That's where freedom begins. Thank you so much for watching and spending your time here with me. If this video gave you clarity or helped you feel seen, please consider hitting subscribe, tapping the notification bell, and leaving a comment below. I'd love to hear what part resonated with you most, or where you are on your healing journey. Your voice matters, your story matters, and you are not alone in this. Until next time, keep choosing peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, and above all, yourself.